Returning to the Middle East now, and that bitter row that's erupted between Israel and the United States. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called for calm after a top aide to US President Barack Obama accused the Israeli government of undermining the Middle East peace process.
What happened there was an affront, it was an insult, but that's not the most important thing. What it did was it made more difficult a very difficult process. We've just gotten so-called proximity talks going between the Palestinians and the Israelis, and this seemed calculated to undermine that, and that was distressing to everyone who is promoting the idea of peace and security in the region. Israel is a strong and special ally. The bonds run deep, but for just that very reason, this was not the right way to behave. That was expressed by the Secretary of State as well as the Vice President. I'm not going to discuss what diplomatic talks we've had underneath that, but I think the Israelis understand clearly why we were upset and what we want moving forward.
We opened the newspapers this morning and read all kinds of commentary and assumptions. I recommend not getting carried away and to calm down.
Benjamin Netanyahu there, and before him David Axelrod. North America correspondent Lisa Miller joins us now from Washington. Lisa, good morning. Now, this relationship between Israel and the Obama administration is becoming increasingly strained.
Some are saying, Joe, that this is the worst rift they've seen in decades between Washington and Israel. What's interesting about those words that you heard both from Benjamin Netanyahu and David Axelrod is that, in fact, the expressions of regret, the apology from Israel came hours before David Axelrod appeared on all the Sunday television talk shows here in America. So what we see is an indication from the White House and from the US, basically, that it doesn't matter what Israel is saying now, that the White House is very angry and upset about what went on. What made this even worse, as far as they're concerned, is the fact that Joe Biden was there as the announcement was made about these 1,600 homes. So it's very interesting to see the wording from David Axelrod. That's not a mistake or a misuse of words, Joe, because he appeared on several of the Sunday talk shows and used those same words, calling it an insult to America and saying that it was very destructive. So that's clearly the line that the White House was deciding it was going to get out there to send that message to Israel, and we'll have to wait and see whether the message has been heard and what Israel makes of this, to understand that this rift is becoming more serious, not fading away.
Now, Benjamin Netanyahu has said the timing of this announcement during the Joe Biden visit was an accident. Clearly, the White House is not accepting that.
No, in fact, David Axelrod went on to suggest perhaps it was a calculated move to derail these the start of these indirect peace talks, because we haven't seen peace talks between the Palestinians and Israel since December 2008. So just over the last couple of weeks, there's been this new push to try and start indirect talks through George Mitchell, the Middle East envoy for the US. And so that had only just started getting off the ground when this announcement was made. So not only is the White House not buying the argument that it was accidental, the timing, they think perhaps it was actually calculated. And Robert Gibbs, the White House spokesman, also was on one of the programs this morning and said that all Israel can do now to try and improve the situation is bring some constructive attitudes and ideas along to these peace talks, if they're able to bring back the trust, because the Palestinians are saying that the trust is gone, and the White House is suggesting that that is the case, that this has been an incredibly damning situation. Hillary Clinton also on the weekend, in a 45-minute phone call to Benjamin Netanyahu, let him understand in no uncertain terms that the US is very unhappy about this situation.
Now, Lisa, you mentioned Hillary Clinton there. We know that earlier this year she cancelled her visit to Australia because of the Haiti earthquake. Now there's a distinct possibility that President Barack Obama's visit may be cancelled altogether as well.
Well, if I was a betting person, I would probably put money on it being cancelled, although the White House keeps saying that this is a very important trip. But even when David Axelrod was asked directly by Tom Brokaw on one of the programs, is there a chance the trip could be cancelled altogether if the health bill does not get voted on before the President is due to leave, David Axelrod said, it'll get voted on. I'm quite confident there'll be a vote. Well, that doesn't answer the question. If there is no vote, and that might still happen, does the President leave on this trip? So that's still up in the air. The White House says it's very important. He wants to get to Indonesia. He wants to get to Australia. But behind the scenes, advisors and various academics and experts are suggesting that neither of those countries are absolutely critical places for him to visit right at the moment. What is critical is for him to get his healthcare reform through Congress, because without it he could end up being a one-term president.
Well, there'll be a few disappointed Australians if it doesn't go ahead. Lisa Miller in Washington, thanks for that.
Thanks.